Hello there, Nick Gidius. How dear your quest in the world of Dragon's Crown?
It goes fine. It's just fine.
I really don't think I could do the entire review like that. Just sit there. Well, thou thinks that this game was fun yet challenging. My mighty quest failed miserably a few times. So yeah, we're talking about the more Japanese games. God, it's like the Japanese just wait for the summer, and they're like, release all our games, release all of them. And then during like the, fall, that's when the Americans are like, release all of our games, all of them. And during the spring, some people are like, well, we'll release all the stuff we couldn't release during the fall.
You mean the crap?
Well, hey, actually no. One of my favorite games was released during the winter was Metal Gear Solid Revengeance, or Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, because they liked alliteration a little bit.
All right, you got me there.
Because that was an amazing game. Did you ever play that one?
Nope.
Anyways.
I never played any of the Metal Gears, but I do love the soundtrack to those games.
You need to play them. But before we get off topic, because this isn't our show, this is just a review. We're talking about dear old Dragon's Crown, where it's a side-scrolling hack and slash RPG. Yeah.
With tits.
Yes. Tits, and more tits. It is one of those things where it's just hilarious. It's where the men are all armored. Well, okay, so you get a choice, people. You get to either be giant armored man, or as Nick on the Bloody Time named him, Titanius. Or you could pick Thoth, like I did, where you're an overly muscular dwarf with a cape, for whatever reasons. So you can pick the overly muscular dwarf, or you can pick a male mage that, is just, your typical Japanese dude with long hair, and he wears a black cloak, really. Or you could pick one of the many women. You get normal archer that has normal sized breasts, normal armor, normal archery armor. Chick, she's like some elf that's, shoots arrows of. Or you can get into two of the most ridiculous classes of all. You can pick, as Dustin called her, Bimbo, where she has the biggest freaking tits. I mean, those are like double EXL, like, it's ridiculous. Like, how does she not just fall over type of thing? I mean, wow. I've mentioned it a couple times, like, well, this is probably the worst game to ever use an argument against sexism in video games, because this is ridiculous. And then you got the other girl who's supposed to be some, like, Amazon, she's just kind of a barbarian chick. Except for she's kind of muscular, but she wears a basic battle bra and a thong. She doesn't even wear a freaking, what the hell am I, what's the word I'm thinking of? Just goes over.
So, tunic.
No, tunic, thank you. She doesn't wear anything. She doesn't wear anything. She just wears a little thong. I was like, so is she supposed to be like a swimsuit model with a giant axe or something? It's ridiculous. Me personally, in the Bloody Time I picked the dwarf, but in my actual game, I picked the male human. I just picked the big guy because, he was just, he's my type of class where he's just, he's a guy with a sword and shield, that's all you need. So, it starts out, the entire story is narrated by some British dude. Who he is or what he is, beats the shit out of me. But he's telling your story. Like, he's supposed to be like, and the great warriors move on, and they go fight this and do this. And it's kind of cool at times where you go into an area and he'll describe what happened in that area. They'd be like, oh, the old capital, it was destroyed by evil magic or whatever.
It wasn't the guy from The Hobbit. It's the greatest adventure in the world lies ahead.
Wait, what?
You've never seen the old Hobbit, the animated version?
I never saw the old Hobbit.
It was the old Rankin Bass animated Hobbit, but I think they make fun of it in South Park. But that's what the guy sounded like. He kind of just He just sings like that, and it's just hilarious.
God. I really wish he would do that. No, he's your typical boring British dude the whole time, just where, and then our heroes. It's like, it would have been really good if they could have just had enough money to afford Ian McKellen to just do the voice and just, have him do his Gandalf voice, just like, and then they took the One Ring. And it would have been awesome. I have to also say, you mentioned the boobs. The boob, they actually have the strangest fucking boob physics in the universe. The boobs just bounce no matter what. Like, not like normal breasts do.
And that's the thing too, is the mage who's wearing this, she's like wearing, a corset or something?
Yeah, it's basically a corset, which even pushes them up, which is understandable. But how they don't just come flying out is amazing to me. What really makes me laugh there, Nikki G, is the frickin' shopkeep. You go to the shop, and it's this woman, and they, because they have these weird animation, and like, I should put this in quoted fingers, animation, they're like still drawings that kind of move back and forth. And basically, they make it so her boobs are bouncing the whole time. And I know, to some guys, this sounds like the greatest game ever made. They're just like, oh, me, I see boobs. I mean, so it's not, it's cool. I'm not dogging on boobs, but it's just like, alright, you guys are going.
They just defy the laws of gravity and they hover.
They basically do. I mean, I'm just amazed. So it is. You also get that one guy who follows you throughout the whole thing. He's your rogue basically, and he is useless as fuck. You have to tell him to open everything, and it kind of gets annoying after a while because you have to. Since this is one of those games that forces you to grind and grind and grind to level up, you have to go back through the same areas a few times, and each time they give you different loot, which is cool. But each time you have to tell him to open the goddamn treasure chest, and the whole time I'm just like, dude, you're not doing anything. The enemies clearly don't give a fuck about what you do, so just open everything. And if I want it, I'll take it. If not, then I don't care. I mean, how hard is it? You are so goddamn useless. If you know what, we wouldn't need. I almost wanted to. I wish I could just pull him inside and be like, the moment I learn how to pick locks, you're done for, buddy. You're done. I don't need you anymore. I'm just gonna drag you out here and I'm gonna throw you in the pit and let the harpy just eat you alive.
And that's one of the things too, which I can actually somewhat praise it, and not so much for your useless rogue. Mm-hmm. But even if you're playing this game solo, you do get other party members that will. They're NCPs. They will fight for you.
Okay, you bring those assholes up, and I have a problem with those assholes. You are right. You pick up their bones. You pick up bones, and then they, you can go resurrect them and whatever. If you resurrect them, you can either go grab them, say, "Hey, I want you on my adventure," or if you're just soloing it, they'll just randomly appear and say, "Hey, I thought you needed some help." For the most part, they are quote they help. But when you get into a boss fight, those guys are so useless. And I will get into the story I have about this game later about those fucking useless little assholes. It also is funny. Those guys have permadeath. If they die, and so you get these certain amount of lives. It's, your traditional side-scrolling thing. You get 3 lives. And then you have potions, and then you can also have this arcade style thing where if you have some gold coins, you can resurrect them, or you can resurrect anybody. And each time you have to resurrect, it costs more and more and more. Well, if you don't resurrect them within 60 seconds, they're dead, and they're dead for good. Because I did not know that, because I found one that was a level 46. I'm like, hell yeah, this one's gonna do me really good. Fighting a boss, she dies, and I was like, well, I'll just get her again. No, she was dead. And so it is one of those things where it's just like, oh, you gotta, it's not like I cared about them, because honestly your AI partners are just palette swap different versions of the 4 characters you can choose from. So it's not like it's anything special. And believe me, I feel like I'm the only motherfucker who has this happen to him, but I got so goddamn confused playing that game. I didn't know who I was sometimes. You will notice that even in our bloody time. Is I will just get confused. I'll be playing. I'm like, wait, where am I? What am I doing? What? No, guys, God, I don't know where my character's at. And then, of course, like, during the bloody time, you have Nick who's being a dick the whole time. Like, you're the red one that's a red circle. I'm like, dude, everything is flashing and on fire, and I'm surprised I haven't fallen over and had a seizure. Like, I personally believe, see, this is one problem I have with the game, is they should make it easier if you are by yourself. They should make it like, I'm not saying hold my hand or like just make it a cakewalk, but make it easier. Like, so that way when I'm, like, I don't have to be, where it's challenging, but I'm not getting my ass handed to me the whole time. But it's not that way. You need, even if you're doing it with AI partners, like I played majority of this with the AI partners, or I say majority, I played about half of this with the AI, and then you get halfway through this, then it unlocks the online feature, which beats the fuck out of me. Unlocks the online feature. And the problem I have with the online feature is it kind of randomly just throws you in a game. And I've had it a couple of times where it randomly threw me in by myself. I'm just like, oh, what the fuck is this? And then you'll sometimes join matches it's good that you do that because with other people, because you have to find these talismans. And it's kind of cool because this game does something novelty where, either novel or kind of annoying. It depends which spectrum you look at. So you play through, I think there are like there are 9 areas. You play through 9 areas, 9 different maps. And then you play through all those areas for whatever reason. And that's before you unlock the online. You unlock the online, then they make you do it again to find these talisman. And they'll randomly throw you in on. So it gets kind of annoying to try to get all 9 through playing the multiplayer. You basically can get half of them. And if I were you, I'd recommend taking on the lower level ones by yourself and taking on the higher levels with people. But basically, you do that and you get thrown in there, and then they get to the cutscene where you meet up with whatever person that's telling you which way to go. And you have an option B. You have to click the option B where you go to a different area and fight a new boss. And the bosses are original. They're kind of cool looking. You fight like Medusa, you fight a giant harpy, you fight a kraken, you fight dragon, you fight a wraith. You fight some pretty interesting characters, I do have to say.
And how did you like the art style for this?
The art style was interesting. The only thing I got annoyed with was the cutscenes, or the in-between stuff. That's basically where the art style is. Like, the gameplay was fine, but also, back to another problem with this game, is it has the most generic story in the world. I mean, it's just one of those things where I just don't give a crap. And then what's even worse is the narrator's doing everybody's voice. So when he's like, basically, it's like you're listening to an audiobook almost, because he's like, well, then so-and-so comes up to you and says, what is happening here? And I'm just like, dude, seriously? You guys hired one fucking voice actor? I mean, I'll admit this game it starts out at, I think it was like a $30 game. So, I mean, if we're, almost, from what I got out of it, 10 hours of gameplay, you're only paying $20 for it or $30 for it. That's not too bad. I mean, it's more than most. The music got annoying as fuck too, because they play the same crap over and over, and the narrator got annoying. See, Nick, every time you go back to the town, he repeats the same thing. So you're like, oh, I need to go resurrect some guys, or I need to go to the shop, or I need to go level up at the guild. You go in there, you come back out, he repeats the same sentence of what you need to do. As if I would have got those 30 seconds before of, wait a second, where do I need to go? And I've also noticed the game sometimes wasn't entirely clear where you needed to go unless you decided to sit there, unless you're really paying attention. See, people, especially if you listen to one of our other Bloody Screen podcast people, Nick, he says, well, Brandon, you can't pay attention to any games. If the game has a shitty story, I don't pay attention. I literally will press X as fast as I can, saying, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I do find they also have this annoying minigame when you're playing online. Actually, even if you're playing by yourself halfway through the game, when you have to go back and fight, and pick option B, you're basically doing a long, it's to earn extra XP and stuff. Well, they have an area where they have this minigame where you have to cook a bunch of food and eat it. And it's annoying and boring, and honestly, I didn't know what to do the first 2 times I went to there. I was just like, I kept stirring the soup. I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
Just throwing a couple rats and spiders in.
I do have to say though, it gets a little manly because some bosses you kill, you can eat them. Like I killed the Kraken, and I made I had fried Kraken meat, and I ate that. I'm like, I am a man. So you can eat certain, it's just like the animal bosses to my knowledge. But it's still one of those things where it's just like, I understand they threw it in there just, so you can earn some extra health and stuff, but it's boring and stupid as hell. Okay, now I have a couple things I need to talk about before, Alright, so I almost stopped playing this game, Nick. Because there's one of those talisman I have to earn. You have to fight a dragon. Well, you pick option B, you get to the dragon, and you can sneak around the dragon, open the door, and walk away, and then he starts chasing you and your party, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is part of it, and you're fighting him, you use a shield to block, and you hurt him a little bit, but then you get so far, and it pulls this Lord of the Rings stuff where, the bridge was unstable, and he starts falling, and he falls, and I'm like, oh, I beat that boss, that was a different type of boss. No. So I was like, oh, okay, I must have started out in the middle of this one, so I'm gonna do it again. So I did it again. Nothing. So I eventually have to look it up online, and it turns out I had to fight the fucker. So I was like, oh, okay, so I have to stay in that room and fight him, and he's a tough fight. So I'm in there with my AI party, because if you pick human players to do this with, unless you know them, they always walk out. And the moment anyone walks out of a room, the whole thing moves. And you don't have enough time to take out all his health, because he takes a while to kill. So I'm sitting there fighting him, and I lost most of my party, actually all of them basically, and I'm just like, okay, it's just me versus you, it's a tough fight. I got him down to 3/4 health. I'm like, okay, I think I got him down enough to go fight him out on the bridge. So I walk out there, we're having a fight. I beat him, Nick. He, the bridge collapses on him. He's, has his claws in there, and he's down to a last sliver of health. So I run up to him, start swinging my sword at him. I'm just like, ah. And then he's down to all his health, he falls. I'm like, I did it! I didn't do it. No, because he fell, I didn't do it. And that pisses me off so freaking much. So I almost stopped until I actually had a Facebook thing with Nick where he's like, you can't finish it. And so I was like, oh, fuck you, I can't. But, so it turned into one of those things where I did it just to spite him, but that was real, fuck you moment there. I really got pissed off at that. I was like, fuck it, I'll send it back to GameFly now. I got so angry. This game also has something that made the final boss a huge pain in the ass. You've seen this, Nick, where your sword, or whatever weapon you're using, will randomly leave your hand. If you get hit hard enough, your sword will go flying, which, in retrospect, is kind of a cool thing. But in reality, it's the most annoying goddamn thing in the world. Because you'll be fighting, and all of a sudden, you're being forced to use your fists because your sword is, and you can't even pick it up right away. You cannot pick it up right away at all because you're just it's just stuck in the ground. You're like, well, fuck, give it to me. The final boss is here. Real quick, last thing, the final boss is hard as hell. Because you don't get to resurrect yourself if you die. Once you die, you're dead. And I gone through a lot of AI partners trying to fight him because, you can't go online and fight him. And I was gonna do this review with Dustin, but he decided he didn't want to play the game that much. Because I called him up and asked him, I was like, hey man, I need your help with, the final boss. He's like, I was like, I'm a level 27, and he's like a level something, I don't even know what level he is. I need your help. And so he's just sitting there, and he's like, well, I'm a level 3, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're not going to be any help to me at all. I don't know how you're level 3. You got the game before I did, but, whatever. And then this game, I would call this a spoiler, but it's not. Nikki G, this game does a fuck you at the end. So you beat the game, you kill the boss, you watch the end credits, and then at the end, so-and-so, something, a fairy pops up or something, and she says, well, you beat our evil dragon leader. That there's more of him. You need to play, and basically they said you didn't win, you just beat one of the many, and you have to go play this on a harder difficulty now, which, in a way, is kind of convincing you to play it on a harder difficulty, and another way, it's kind of like, well, fuck you didn't do anything then. They just, literally, Nick, they just basically they just said that entire 10 hours I did was for nothing. It was just,
They just called you a little girl, basically.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you played on normal? You should go play on harder difficulty because there's more dragons to kill. And I'm just like, no, you just made my progress seem like it's nothing. I had high hopes for this game, but then again, I was probably just hopeful because it was something new and different to actually play. I was so sick of the month of July when we didn't have anything coming out that was really worth a damn. So this one was just, it was a little disappointing, but overall it was pretty fun gameplay. It's not something you want to plow through, really, because you get tired of it pretty quick. I'm not going to lie. You get tired of just, side-scrolling through it, but 10 hours, it's a decent amount to go through this world. I got to give it a high C+. If you find this, it's already at a discount price, but if you find it cheaper, by all means. So, it's a game I think is worth owning, but it's a game that, you take your time, you grind through every now and again, you just, turn on your favorite music or your favorite Bloody Screen podcast episode, and you just, listen to that and just plow through it, because this has a stupid-ass story. It has, some gameplay mechanics I thought were really kind of harping on the gameplay. And they're not entirely clear sometimes how to fight the boss, like with that dragon. That really pissed me off, because, that's just annoying. So yeah, I it's a C+. It's not nothing you need to have right now, but if you find it for dirt cheap, by all means, it's worth it playthrough. It's something you'd probably want to own, not to rush. So yeah, the good old bargain bin C+ rating. That is everybody. If you'd like to comment or let us know what you think of it, go to bloodyscreen.weebly.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our videos so you can hear more reviews of ours. If you played Dragon's Crown and like to let us know what you think of it, you have to put it in the comment section on the website. That is everybody. Good night.